Greetings, and welcome back to Asafo Academic. Coming back with a very serious topic, so I'm just going to go right into it. And just with this guy named Jason Whitlock, with the amount of audacity and disrespect he had on his take on the whole Tyree Nichols situation. For anybody that doesn't know, Tyree Nichols, this brother right here, was beaten down by these five black police officers. They've been fired, they've been charged, and they're pretty much going to be spending a very long time in jail. They were caught on body cams and other footage beating Tyree Nichols pretty much to death. He later died in the hospital. Even after he was handcuffed, they continued to beat him. The usual suspects who defend police on the right, the conservatives, or the Republicans, the black conservatives, all have unanimously agreed that these five, even six officers, there was one white guy watching, should all be in jail. There's no defense. There's no digging up of Tyree Nichols' past to see what he did. From what I understand, he had a pretty clean past. I don't think he had anything in his past. But even so, their right-wing media decided not to go that direction. But Jason Whitlock, out of all people, he has a podcast called Fearless, more like Cowardice. He didn't actually say it on his podcast. He said it on Tucker Carlson, right? I've done a video on Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is just disingenuous. He just carries the waters for Fox News. So when I heard that Jason Whitlock had the take he had about black women or black single mothers in this situation, I was really not surprised. But I'm going to play the clip fully. I'm not even going to interrupt. And then I'm going to go thoroughly through this idea that it is black single mother's fault that Tyree Nichols is dead. So hear it from the horse's mouth, and then we'll be back to dismantle it as I do.
I felt guilty putting that video on the screen, not because I was on anyone's side. I felt obviously bad about it. It was horrible. But because you don't want to put ugly things on TV and inflame passions. You want people to be reasonable and think things through and reach wise decisions. Why would news organizations, they really want to make people enraged, clearly.
They don't want us focused on reality. Hey, if they want us to devote an hour of coverage to this and weekend coverage of this, and they want to take us to a good place, I would examine the racial element of this, because there is a racial element. And this is a story about young black men and their inability to treat each other in a humane way. Everybody involved in this on the street level was either 24 to 32 years old. Everybody. It was a group of young black men, 5-on-1. Looked like gang violence to me. It looked like what young black men do when they're supervised by a single black woman. And that's what they got going on in the Memphis Police Department. They've elected or put some black woman in charge of the police force. And we're getting the same kind of chaos and disunity and violence that we see in a lot of these cities that are run by single mothers. If we want to discuss the breakdown of family that leads to disrespect for authority, that causes you to resist the police and run from the police and not comply with the police because you resist authority at all time, because there was no male authority in your home, let's have that discussion. But that's not where they want to take us. They want to take us down the path of saying, you know what, this is Tucker Carlson's fault. This is some random this is Donald Trump's fault.
Okay, so you heard that. I don't know if he was trolling or if he was serious. I really cannot tell. at this point, to be honest. Sometimes the anti blackness is so ingrained, it's almost as if black people themselves are professionals in it. It's almost like they've surpassed white people in anti blackness. I'm really starting to think that at this point. Tucker Carlson didn't really have nothing to say. He just let what can I say? The degenerate just spew his dirty, unfactual thoughts, right? So let's just we're gonna go piece by piece. There's like two layers in this, and the first layer is that because there was a black woman police chief that this all happened. So we're gonna go back to Freddie Gray. Freddie Gray was in 2015 in Baltimore. He was beaten. He was put into the back of a police van without any type of seatbelt. The van was driving very recklessly. Long story short, he ended up with a spinal injury, which took his life. The six officers, as you see, three black and three white, right? So this is kind of similar, almost similar to the Tyree Nichols, right? In the Tyree Nichols, we have six officers, five black, one white. So we have this similar situation that happened 2015. And when we look at the police chief, Anthony Bates, we know that he's a man, and he's a black man at that. So, in my mind, this whole idea that it's because of a black woman police chief mirrors single black mothers and the chaos going in the community is just completely blown out of the water. But I know some people are going to say, oh, there was white officers involved. It wasn't completely black. It's not exactly the same, right? Okay, so I have another one for you. Okay? So I just have one name. His name is Rafael Perez. Now, you could say what you want about this man. You could say, oh, he's not ADOS, he's not American, he's Hispanic. He presents himself as a black man. And Rafael Perez was the inspiration for Training Day, the movie about a corrupt cop. So, just a little bit about Rafael Perez. He worked in the LAPD and he was the central figure in the LAPD Rampart scandal. In that Rampart scandal, he snitched on everybody. He snitched on everybody so he could gain immunity. Rafael Perez is also implicated in the murders of Biggie and Tupac. Just imagine that. A black man implicated in the murders of Biggie and Tupac. No black woman in sight, no single mother in sight. Right? You could look it up. You can even see in this page it says a little bit, but this is public knowledge. It's been out there for a very long time. Rafael Perez not only was rogue LAPD officer, he also worked for Suge Knight as well too. So that is very documented. Whether or not he was actually involved in the murders of Biggie and Tupac, I guess is will always be a large part of the folklore of those murders because they haven't been officially solved by the LAPD. But as you can see here, And as you will see if you do dig in, that Rafael Perez, David Mack, all these guys, black men, were surrounded or close to the murders of Biggie and Tupac. But let's look at who is the police chief, because the way Jason Whitlock was talking, it sounds like it was a black single mother, or it was just, a black woman, you know, that's just letting these Negroes just run rampant and kill rappers, right? So let's see here. LAPD chief, 1989. That's when Rafael Perez was sworn in. So we have Daryl Gates. We can see here this is not a black woman. So we can conclude this has absolutely nothing to do with black single mothers. But there might be some people still doubting. They're like, hey, Rafael Perez probably didn't get corrupt until later on. Okay, so let's do our due diligence. LAPD chief, 1998. 1998 was his last year, so he was from 1989 to 1998, basically 9 years. So as we can see here, we have Daryl Gates, right? Then we got Willie L. Williams. Looks like from 92 to 97. So let's just take a look here. Willie L. Williams. So I think we can conclude that this is not black single mother's fault again. So 92 to 97. Then we have Bayan Lewis. Looks like 97 and 98. The final years of Rafael Perez. So as we look to the tail of the tape, Bayan Lewis, obviously looks white. I want to say Italian, but the last name is not given Italian. So we'll just keep it at Caucasian for now. We'll just do straight Caucasian. And I think it's safe to say and conclude that it is not black single mother's fault that this gentleman right here, Rafael Perez, who had a whole movie, an Oscar winning movie, I might add, inspired by him, by the great Denzel Washington. I can't even lie, I have that DVD. I have that DVD amongst my collection. But nevertheless, looking at past historical cases, you would think that black women who are police chiefs was some type of rampant problem with police departments. But we see here that the problem is just the men. It seems like just the men are the problem. Right? So let us go back here as we come back to the present. I got curious about their lives. I got curious. Maybe they come from single mother homes. And I'm not gonna get into the responsibility of black fathers, because it really doesn't matter. I just wanna dissect the heart of Jason Whitlock's whole whole take, quote unquote take. So I was very curious about their parent life. I didn't find too much. I didn't do super thorough digging, to be honest, but I did find some information that I think everybody should know in terms of whether or not this is black single mother's fault. Okay, so we begin here. We begin here, right? The first one, Desmond Mills Jr., he's 32, right? So he played football for West Virginia State University. So he went to university. Jason Whitlock said he looked like he was watching a bunch of thugs. How many thugs go to university, right? So there's a coach named Kip Shaw who coached him from 2009 to 2010. Says he was a popular and hard-working member of the team who played center and offensive guard. I'm not one to be surprised a lot, Shaw said, but when I saw the news, I was just shocked. I've been coaching a long time, and you just never know. I told my wife, that man played for us at West Virginia State. So he went to university, and then he joined the force in 2017. So Desmond Mills is a graduate of Bloomfield High School. So he graduated high school as well too. So a little bit more on Desmond Mills because we're going to go right into three of the officers now. So we have established that Desmond Mills went to university, played football. It's not been established if he graduated. I would assume he graduated, but since it didn't say that he graduated, I can assume that he graduated. So maybe he played his football, but didn't actually graduate. I think that's a fair assumption because it didn't specifically state. So Omega Sci-Fi revokes membership of 3 officers charged in Tyree Nichols beating. So we'll get into it. So Omega Psi Phi Fraternity is a renowned black Greek organization, and usually these black Greek organizations are found on campuses. If I'm not mistaken, is found on HBCUs, historically black colleges, universities. So let's see here. The organization issued a statement last week ahead of Nichols' funeral announcing Tedarius Bean, New Mumu chapter, Emmett Martin III, and Desmond Mills Jr., Sigma Lambda chapter, had their memberships revoked effective immediately upon learning of their role with Tyrese Nichols. So this is a bit interesting. Some online speculators associated the former officer's Greek affiliation to their violent actions, ultimately stirring a debate about whether the beating reflected the behavior of the organization as a whole. So when we look at HBCUs, colleges, universities, I think we can categorically agree that black single mothers did not build HBCUs or colleges and universities in America for that matter. So they cannot be tied to the hazing, as it's called, that's being attributed to these black Greek organizations. And fraternity is a all male group. Maternity is an all female group. So even in this instance, there still isn't any sign of single black women, single black mothers. So I think we can go on. Since they had the membership, I could, I mean, I just want to see it. I just want to see the source that says that he actually graduated. But I would think that you would have to graduate if you still had a membership to a fraternity you went to back in the day. But we'll continue on anyways. So we go on to the next one. So we have here Emmett Martin the third, right? He was one of the 5 police officers. Who is former Memphis police officer Emmett Martin the third? He was part of the Scorpion unit. According to NBC News, nope, that's not what I want to read. Okay, here we go. Where did Emmett Martin III go to school, and what did his former classmates say about him? According to NBC News, the 30-year-old attended private Christian school Bethel University in McKenzie, Tennessee. He went to a Christian school. He went to a Christian school. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. A former fellow student called him one of the coolest brothers ever. One of the coolest brothers ever. Imagine that. He also played on the school's football team as a tight end. It says he graduated in 2015 and received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and corrections. This is what I was looking for Desmond. Didn't find it. But you know what? I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go now. We're going to continue on. So we have 3 people who have at least attended. We know at least one has their degree. We'll continue on. We'll continue on. Right? We'll keep peeling back the layers. Who is Tadarius Bean? He started his police officer career in 2020. They're saying that he worked in a fast food restaurant in Mississippi, and then he worked for AT&T. He received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and law enforcement in 2020. So he received a degree in 2020, and he also became an officer in 2020. Nothing about football or anything, but that's number 2 with the degree, and that's number 3 who at least attended university. All right, stay with me now. Stay with me. So, Tadarius, we see that Tadarius here, he was actually, it says he was a head of a violent frat, right? So I can't verify if the frat was actually violent. There's been a lot of chatter that it's been violent, but without any actual charges or any type of records being shown, can't say that for 100%. I've never been to an HBCU, never been to a fraternity or anything like that, never did any hazing. I'm completely, I have no knowledge on this, I guess, call it college lifestyle here, okay? So, Tadarius Bean, he was 24. He was once head of the Omega Sci-Fi's Eta Zeta chapter. So he was the head of a chapter. I guess in some way he was able to show leadership qualities. If you really think about it, a chapter of all men, right? He had to have done something above and beyond to show that he could be a leader or he could get elected to convince other men to vote for him, right? So he was a leader of Omega Sci-Fi chapter, right? So this idea that he was looking at thugs, you know, Jason Whitlock, what he said, I don't know. We got 3 people that went to university. 2 of them played football. One of them was a head of a fraternity. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Right? So Memphis got Demetrius Haley. Oh yeah, and one other thing, I didn't find much information on the last guy, Justin Smith, I believe. Um, yes, Justin Smith, 28. There wasn't much information. I believe he worked in a probation as a probation officer before. Doesn't say anything about education, right? So Demetrius Haley, let's go back to Demetrius Haley, right? He texted photos of bloody Tyrese Nichols after beating. So let's see here. So after he was handcuffed, he sent it to 6 people. He sent it to 2 people who also got fired with him. Where is it? Where is it? So he sent it to 2 fellow cops. I'm not sure if those are cops that got fired. Sorry, need to correct that. Sent it to a civilian employee of the police department and a female acquaintance. So we have Demetrius here um, exhibiting the same type of, what's the word to call it? Psychotic behavior of posting everything on social media, whether it's incriminating or not. That is not something that was taught by single mothers. So this behavior, from somebody who went to university, it's incredible how somebody who actually went to university and studied could be this stupid into filming and taking evidence of excessive force and sending it out to people. I mean, the manosphere, the red pillars, they could say anything they want about black women, but they can't say that black women taught black men this dumb shit about posting everything on social media. I think we can agree on that, right? So, I mean, I've thoroughly went through it piece by piece, article by article, right? And the question I have is, when does accountability come in? When does accountability come in? Just think about that for a few seconds. You know, Jason Whitlock is not alone when it comes to blaming black women for anything. He's not alone because a lot of people agreed with him. But this is the problem. It's the accountability. And it's funny because Jason Whitlock talks about accountability in the black community. It's amazing. As an anti-black as he is, he always talks about accountability. He always talks about black on black crime. But then when it's actually time to talk about black on black crime, he spins it and then blames it on the single mothers. What about the men? What about the men? We got 3 that went to college, 2 that had degrees. So at the very least, maybe 2 of these guys were Pookies and Ray Rays, right? You know, it's interesting, very interesting, because there's never accountability. And even when the educated ones are with the uneducated ones, the educated ones are still, well, in this situation, the educated ones are still engaging in the same destructive psychotic, juvenile, suicidal behavior as the uneducated ones. It's really incredible. Degrees don't mean that you're better than everybody else who don't have degrees. Degrees mean that it shows that you have some type of discipline to sit down and learn even when you don't want to. That's what a degree means. A degree shows discipline. It doesn't show that you're smarter, because I've met some people with degrees, and let's just say I don't think they're very smart. So we'll keep it there. The final thing I'll say is this is the legacy of Kevin Samuels, what you see coming out of Jason Whitlock's mouth. Blaming black women for everything, every chance they get. That's all his legacy is now. People think they're keeping it alive by trying to hold women accountable, but then we get bullshit like this. I'm not saying black women are perfect, but I don't think black women destroyed the community. I have very different thoughts on that. I will be giving my perspective on that, but this whole Jason Whitlock situation is just, I mean, I shouldn't even laugh about it. It's really sad. It's just really sad. He talks about division between black men and black women, and he's too blind, too dumb, uh, just too deep into his cognitive dissonance to see that he's the one that's causing the division between black men and black women. There may be some problems, but now we've gotten to a point where the ones who talk about accountability and leadership are not stepping up to the plate and leaving everything at black women's feet. So stay tuned for my next video. It's going to be called If Black Mothers Failed the Community, It's Better Than Black Fathers Abandoning Their Children. So that's all I got for this video. Thanks for tuning in, and peace out to the next video.